Welcome to Two Luckies,
Two Luckies, the podcast,
and our series, Dyin,
Cryin
and
Lyin.
Lyin. This is a series of us talking about Little House on the Prairie and our take on it as adults.
It is very different as an adult.
Very different. And if you sum this all up, they can fall into one of three categories, either dying,
They're crying,
or they're lying.
lying.
So sit back, relax, come take an adventure with us as we reminisce on Little House the Prairie, Dyin,
Cryin
and
Lyin.
Lyin. Season 1, The Homecoming of Mr. Edwards, open scene.
They're rowing. And I'm thinking to myself, first of all, where do they have a body of water big enough for rowing anything? I mean, they have ponds, little things you could put a bucket into. You could fish maybe the fishing hole, but any body of water this big, and it kept going. And I'm like, where are we?
Right. He was in a rowboat and looked like he had a bunch of big boxes with some kind of a cover over him.
I mean, it was a decent-sized rowboat. Like, he could have fit other people in it with him. And then they pan up, and then you see the town name.
You see the town name. I think it said Mankato Freight Depot, and there's Chaz standing there. So
hands in his pockets.
So right away we see that Chaz has some kind of a freighting job that he's doing. He's got his team in a wagon there. Where he got them from is beyond me, but he's got them there. He's at the depot, and now he wants to look around. I think that's what he said to the guy as he was just getting finished up, loading up the wagon. He was just going to take a quick walk. So he's walking.
Get a present for his wife.
Oh, that's right. For Ma. Needed a present. So he's walking down the street, hands in his pockets, looking as touristy as ever. And next thing you know, I think somebody went through a window
like
right
glass
in front
shatters, like right in front of him. It like explodes out onto the street in front of him.
So it turns out it was a saloon. So what does Chaz do? He has to walk inside.
Yes, because he's like that. He has to investigate. He has to know what's going on at all times.
So what did he do?
He goes up there. He gets through the crowd. There's like people all standing there staring in one spot. And he sees Mr. Edward drunker than a skunk with both of his fists up.
He's standing there, so it's naturally Chaz, he's going to approach him slowly. And I think one of the, might have been the barkeep or somebody leaned out, hey, you might want to take a chair. He's crazy.
He's crazy, and he gets close enough. He says who he is, right? He identifies himself.
Actually, he walked up to him and he said, Edwards.
He said his name.
And he's kind of standing there like off on his own. Next thing you know, he takes a half-hearted swing at Chaz, who was easily able to block it off, and says, Edwards, it's me, Ingalls.
Yeah, while he's holding him up against the wall by like his neck.
Next thing, it's Ingalls, my best friend.
He said, my only friend.
Only
friend. So his only friend now is dunking his head into a trough, a horse trough at the side of the road, because he used to have those to water your horses when you came up, because it's the 1800s. There's no electricity. There are no indoor plumbing. If you had to do your business, you were doing it outside. And now your horses needed a place to drink, and Mr. Edwards' head is being dunked repeatedly into this water to sober him up.
Right, and he pulls his head out and he says, okay, that's enough. And Chaz, nope, one more time.
Yep, and then he dunks him again. It's like, hello, he said enough. He said, I've had enough. So now you're dunking his head again. And then he sits back up and he's trying to get all this water off of him. And there's the smirk.
Oh, yeah, the smirk. And then the story. What's he doing there? He's a long way from Kansas, because that's the last time we saw Mr. Edwards, or as we said, Mystery, which is Mr. E.
Mr. E, Mr. Edwards. But at this point in time, I thought to myself, look, he took a job that takes him away from home again. He's freighting.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
He's freighting.
And Edwards just ended up there, and he's trying to tell the story of how he got into this brawl in the saloon, and he really didn't remember much about it, just that some guys jumped him after cordial words, I think he said. And then after that, why don't you come on back to Walnut Grove with me? I think you'd be better off.
Yes, you'd be better off. And, he asked how everybody's doing at home, and Charles is over there shaking his head no and saying everybody's fine. We find out that these actors, most of the time, they're saying something that really you should be if you meant it, you'd be shaking, like nodding your head yes.
Right.
But they're always shaking their head no. And or it was foreshadowing. We just didn't know it yet.
Yeah.
So he says, come see Laura.
Right, Laura. Never mind Mary, Carrie, Ma, the rest of the family. Just come see Laura.
Yeah, so now this guy was belligerently drunk, gets him sobered up somehow by trying to half drown him into the water trough, and then brings him home. And then we see him laying in the back of the laying in the back
He's
of
laying in the
Charles's
back of the
freight
wagon, and then Chaz pulls up to the mercantile, and he says, "We're here." Oh, doesn't really look like much. Where are the saloons? Huh. Well, that's easy. We don't have any. No saloons.
Right, no saloons.
How
What
can
do you
call
mean?
this a town without saloons?
Now, doesn't he? This is when he spits because he's famous for his spitting. He's always
Yes.
chewing his
So
jaw.
now Chaz has talked him into helping him unload the wagon to the mercantile, and he turns around and spits his chaw right in front of the widow Snyder, who had just walked out of the mercantile.
Whose name is also her first name is Grace. Her
But
first
now
name is Grace.
He spits right in front of her, and she just looks disgusted and storms off. And
Yeah, she's
he
very
gives the Edwards
unimpressed.
look.
She feels that he's uncouth, which is pretty much what Ma had been saying. And he smells his clothes, and he's like, "Do you think I should clean up?"
So this is funny. So before they get home, they cut out
No,
of that.
Charles
Now
said they'll be happy to see you the way you are.
right. They cut back to the house now, and now we find out that Laura is sick in bed. She's got tonsillitis, I guess, but she's also running a fever.
Yes, but hold on a second. Ma came out running to greet Mr. Edwards when all she did ever before.
Yeah, but they
in
showed
the pilot, she turned her nose up. She really came around.
But they showed the scene in the house before all that happened. So they're explaining how Laura's sick, and she wanted to know if the tonsils were going to have to come out. And, well, I don't know if I should, wait to get better. And I'm kind of talking about all this because at this point in the story, I got to be honest, we're watching. It's like, this is too wholesome so far. We're really not getting anything like,
you were like,
juicy.
This episode's going to be a dud. I don't know if this one's going to work. I mean, maybe we should try to we were trying to think of other ways to maybe consolidate them. But
that's what it turned around.
It was a slow start, but boy, they get every single category. We were shocked. They made it. If you stayed this far, you know it. And if you want to find out how, this is how we're about to tell you, because the first thing was Charles said everybody was fine.
Right.
Laura's sick.
But
Lyin.
Yeah, but he didn't know about that yet. He didn't know that she was sick. He remember he's freight and he's away from home.
Yes.
From
How are you supposed to know that you're? Yeah, okay. I'll have to take
but
back
don't
my
worry,
Lyin.
we're just about there when you hear the clanking of the horses and Mary, Pa's home.
Yay!
So they go down to greet him and Mr. Edwards. Oh, wow. Great to see you.
I mean, Ma was practically ready to get lifted up and twirled around. She was hugging him so hard. She was like, Mr. Edwards! Finally a visitor that the kids like. Yeah. I mean, he really was good with them.
Yeah, she's so overjoyed. She's telling them, Laura's sick. She's what'd she say? She's laying down in the loft.
Yeah, she has a fever. No, I don't think she had a fever because that would have been something different. She's not feeling well and she's laying down or something like that.
Why don't you guys go in there and talk to her? Here, I'll take care of the team.
Well, how about
when does that ever happen?
Charles had to ask for a hug. She went out and said hi to Mr. Edwards so much she handed Carrie over. Charles picked Carrie up, right? He's standing there holding Carrie on his hip and he was like, can I have a hello? Can I have a hug or something? He had to ask for attention that was how much of a change this has been.
Here comes our real first lie, because I think it was Ma that asked, how did you guys ever meet up?
Right. How did you come about seeing each other?
And what was it that Mr. Edwards said?
He said we were having a party. We were having a party. Yep.
And then Charles said, I had a real tough time taking him out of that meeting.
Yeah, hard time taking him away. Or a hard time getting him away from this party.
Yeah, and he's in a party.
So it was a double lie. Pow, pow. Lyin. They hit it twice. We should do it again. Lyin.
Lyin.
Because that was they were fighting. There was glass breaking. There were people shocked. They were telling him he had to practically get a chair and a whip like a lion tamer. And now all of a sudden it was a party between friends, and like
So at
I
least
had
we had
trouble
one that
getting him
starts it
away.
off. So then they get in the house.
Hold on, before they get in the house, he holds Carrie over his head, Mr. Edwards, and he tells Carrie, "Stop growing. Would you stop that growing?" And I remember thinking as a kid how affectionate it was, but as an adult, it's like that's all she's got to do right now. She's like a year.
Come on, man.
She's
She's
like
already
18
small.
months. Like I know it's supposed to be a joke, but like it hit me different as an adult.
She's already small. I mean, give her a break. But anyway.
So they sneak inside because we've already established that this room there's just one big room with a loft,
Pa
and there's a
wants to make it a
fireplace in the middle.
surprise.
He wants to make it a surprise, but there's no walls in the interior that are anything other than fireplace, and you can see up in the loft from the minute you get in the door, and they're trying to, evasive maneuver. So isn't that a form of lying? Well, no, because they're
Not
trying to be
really.
surprising.
We get to that.
They're trying to be surprising.
So anyway, he gets up there and he sits down and talks to milk measurement. And you listen. You need to.
That's Laura.
You need to take it easy, okay? Yeah, half pint. You need to take it easy, and rest up. You'll be better in no time. Hey, I got a surprise for you. What's that? Okay. And here comes Mr. Edwards. Mr. Edwards!
Yes, and she's shocked, and she says, "I thought I'd never see you again." And he said,
well,
I
I promised you
you.
I'd be back. And here he is. And he goes and gives her a big hug, and that's when all hell breaks loose. He goes,
Well,
wait.
Can I stop you there
Sure.
for 1 second? 1 second, because in my notes, Charles had a problem with he was gray prematurely, the actor, and
I
they
know where
dyed
this is
his
going.
hair straight. Now, I have tried to dye my gray hair. He must have had the same kind of grays that I have, because my grays refuse any kind of dye, and the sun was so strenuous that it would turn his hair purple, like if he went out in the sun.
The purple
And
was
my
shining.
notes say eggplant lead over, because that's exactly what I would have told him if I was working on the set, because the way they had the lighting highlighted the purple of his hair that he looked like he had an eggplant on his head. It was the same
Yes.
color, but I have eggplant lean over.
So Mr. E, hugs Laura and says, wait a minute. This child's burning up with fever.
Yes.
What are you doing? Where's the doctor?
Well, he said, "Oh, you know how kids are, Charles, over there. You know how kids are. They get fast fever. She'll be over it in a second." Now, meanwhile, they're talking about she's laying in the bed here.
Right, she's right
They're
there.
talking about this. Mr. Edwards is mad. Now, Mr. Edwards is usually pretty happy.
Pretty happy, but he really kind of flipped out on old Chaz,
Yes.
in which he excused himself after that and says, "Yep, yeah, you're right." Goes down the ladder and she said something to. Oh, yeah, that's right. Hey, I've been practicing. I can spit farther than you can.
Yes, and he says, "Practice makes perfect."
perfect.
And then we get the smirk again from Charles.
Yep. So then Chaz puts him up in the barn.
And he says it's the fanciest place in town, which I say, lion,
Lion.
because this is a loft. Who knows? We never see you cleaning that straw
But
there,
he did
Charles.
say at least it has fresh hay.
He said it had fresh straw, and we're not exactly sure. He said it was the only loft around, which I highly doubt they had the only loft there.
This is the first point in the story where Mr. Edwards, you actually learn something about his backstory.
Yes.
Right? Okay. So
Yeah, this is a big deal.
Yes, and he has to tell Chaz that, listen, I got to explain to you. I owe you an explanation why I flipped out on you.
And he
right away,
apologized.
Chaz, you don't owe me anything. It's like, dude, shut up. He's trying to tell you something. This is when you find out, and we come across our first series of
Dyin,
Dyin.
2 at the same time. It's a 2-for-1.
And listen, this is a sad story. Sad story. It turns out Mr. Edwards was actually married and had a little daughter named Alice. And in his infinite wisdom, moved them out on a homestead claim way, way out in the middle of nowhere, far beyond the reaches of people. And in his infinite wisdom, came home with smallpox and infected everyone. So in the time that they were infected, he said he reached out Nobody could hear his pleas for help,
He
and
sent out a distress signal, he said, and they were too far
right.
out so for anybody
And his
to
wife and
even
his child didn't make it.
detect it. And
Very,
this,
very sad story. And he was saying about how Alice was reminding him very much of Laura, which is why he takes to her so much. They were only a couple years difference in age. So that's when we find out he was actually married. He did have a child, and yeah, so the thought of fever just scared the hell out of him.
which led him to, while he was telling the story about his family who tragically died, crying.
Right. So
We
now
ended up with Mr. Edwards crying while he's telling the story, and then we have another incident of crying, which we are going to do crying,
Crying.
because here's Charles, chin quivering, pats Mr. Edwards on the head like he's a little kid while he's crying, and he leaves the loft.
right.
So then we come back to the shot of Carrie in the high chair.
Yes.
Ah, there she is, poor thing.
In the high
She's still
chair.
sitting there. I mean, it's amazing that she ever grew. That's all she ever did was sit in that chair.
So she's sitting in the chair. They're sitting there eating dinner.
Well, they
And,
prayed, and Mr. Edwards didn't pray with them.
oh, that's
first.
right. Mr. Edwards didn't pray, and Laura was praying with licorice in her mouth.
Yes, so she got
Which-
scolded for the licorice, and then he says he forgot what a good cook Ma was, and she said, "Well, you'll have to have seconds."
Yep, and he said, "Well, no, thank you. I can't do that to you." And what she do? Got him seconds anyway.
She got him the seconds. Then they start asking him if he's going to stay. He says he's got a commitment. Do you have a commitment elsewhere? And he says he can't just up and stay. He has to get a place. So they say, "You got a place, and I'll get Charles to the rescue. I'll get you a job at the mill."
Yep, get you a job with Hanson. So then he says, "Well, I'll tell you what. I'll at least make the promise. I'll stay until you're better, milk measurement, but only if you get back in the bed right now."
Right now. So, I mean, they made the deal. She went back to bed, and they turn around to him and loudly say, while Laura's upstairs, because she's talking from the loft over here while they're having this conversation, "Welcome home."
Welcome home.
So then they're eating in bed with the popcorn. And now we have, this episode gave so much, that the slow start gave so much that they even came up with a guest category. And that guest category is prying.
Prying.
And there's another one, too,
Spying.
spying. So we had Cryin and Spyin come in to make the cameos so they could be like, "Look, we got versatility." So now we got Ma with her prying. Go ahead.
Yeah, Ma's laying there and she's trying to play matchmaker and says, the widow Snyder would be perfect for him. Maybe we can do something there. And then Charles
rolled his eyes. That's what I have on my note. He rolled his eyes and said, "She's a typical woman. She's got to, get her nose into other people's business. Matchmaking,
Yep.
they're wrong for each other."
They're wrong for each other. They have their complete opposites.
And she said, "Opposites attract,"
And then he had to make the snide comment.
which I'm calling my own lion, because he said, "I always wondered why you went for a shy, sophisticated, educated man." And it's like, huh?
Don't know who that was. That must have been the one before
That might
Chaz.
must be, yeah, that's the guy before that he got mad about, that she kissed a guy. That's another one when she was 10. So then she says, "Here's another lion," because she says, "What did you say?" Because she was off in outer space. She wasn't listening to him at all. And he said, "I said good night, dear," which I call those lies. I know you call them niceties, but really, be honest here. You're supposed to be telling the truth here, Charles.
Absolutely. So anyway, we get to the next day now when they pan back in. Now he's at the mill, and Hanson hires him on. He's working.
He hires him immediately upon Charles's recommendation,
Right.
and he's working, and he starts singing. So he sings this song.
The Mr. Edwards
The-
song is
the-
Old Dan Tucker.
Old Dan Tucker. I call it Mr. Edwards' theme song. It doesn't really matter, but he's actually singing it with like different lyrics than I've ever heard him sing it before and or after. And I thought, did he forget his song? And then he takes his hat off to Grace, and when she walks past, he stares at her and then howls.
That's right, after singing the song.
Yes, I mean, it was a kind of like he really stares at her.
So now we cut back to the Ingalls residence where Doc Baker is checking out Laura.
Yes, and has to say that her tonsils are a pretty pink. Couldn't they just be pink, healthy pink? They look great. They look normal. They look good. No, they had to be pretty. And she wants to go back to school, which, wow, has she been home a long time? She wants to get out of that
Must be.
house, get some
Must
walls
be.
between her and these people because she's like raring to go for school, wants to know if she's going to have an operation. He gives her a licorice. So now we know where the
licorice.
source of her licorice was from the previous, must have been the previous visit from the doctor. He gives her the licorice and, he says, oh, we don't need to operate for a sore throat. So this went from tonsillitis to sore
Right,
throat
to a
really
sore
quickly.
throat, and then I know when he turned around to leave the loft, he smashed his head on the beam.
Yes, and when she asked if he was okay, I still say it's a lie. He said he was perfectly okay. He was not okay. He hurt himself, and he said, don't worry, I'll see a doctor.
He'll see a doctor.
So now we got Mr. Edwards at the job on the mill. He's sweaty. He's drenched. He's looking for some water. Where does he get the water? Think
He
about the
gets-
source of water.
He gets the water. He sees a jug floating in this little pond of water, which is right below the water wheel that operates the mill.
Right, it's literally the water that falls down after it turns the wheel to to give the electric whatever, to give the motion
So
for
he
the
sees
motors.
this whiskey jug floating in there. He fishes this thing out, opens it up. The jug was empty, so he fills it with the water from there and starts drinking out of it. And who happens to be a Prairie?
Brian Grace. Oh, there she is in the post office because she's right across from the mill and she's got her window open because it's a nice day and she is peering and I'd say this is also the first instance of spying. Because she thinks he's getting drunk. This is the kind like they used to show. This was the kind of shape of jug that anybody who watched any kind of older television or old movies would have associated with somebody who's drinking alcoholic beverages, something that would make you drunk.
Right.
But he found an empty jug that apparently didn't have anything in it and filled it up with this gross water and was drinking it. And she thinks he's getting drunk.
So now he makes it back to the Ingalls residence and he greets Milk Measurement
Yes.
over there, aka Half Pint. Okay, and what does he do? He gives her a thing of lemon verbena.
Lemon verbena. So now she's been sick. He doesn't even know if she's well yet. He finds out she's well because she runs out of the house to him. He scoops her up and says, I got you something in town. He had talked to the teacher and asked something, and that's when the teacher, Miss Beadle, had said, she likes my lemon verbena, and he went across to the mercantile, spent his money that he just made at the mill, right?
Right.
And
the
he
lemon
bought her
verbena.
something. He was thoughtful like that. These were somebody else's kids.
Right. Now, Laura's kind of like very nervous about the whole thing. Well, now that I'm all better, you only said you were going to stay until I got better. Does that mean you're leaving?
Well, he says, no, I can't leave.
Right. I can't leave. I'll tell you what, I think I just might stay on a bit longer.
Right, I might stay on a little bit longer, but he really just decided that in the moment. He decided it, I have it as a lie. I have it as a lie. She asked, is he going away? And he just literally just changed his mind. He vacillates. He swings back and forth like the wind. And then we come into Charles with the fiddle that he never learned to play for 9 years. And I call that lying too.
All right,
because he can't play it.
I got to tell you what I have in my notes.
I missed a bunch of stuff.
Night, pa fiddles.
Yes,
Around the campfire.
I have fiddle, can't play. He never learned, didn't even try. Felt that we had already bought whatever lie he was given that he knew how to play this thing.
Yep.
And yes,
They're dancing
now
around the campfire.
We get a prying and a lying because
yes.
now we get Ma. She waylays him first thing in the morning. Everybody's getting ready to go. The girls are getting ready to go to school. They're gonna walk with Mr. Edwards because he's the mill is like you could throw a rock.
She
and hit
says,
the
"Oh,
school."
Mr. Edwards, could you do me a favor?"
This is Ma.
Yes, this is Ma. Could you do me a favor? Would you be able to stop at the post office on the way home and pick up our mail?
Pick up our mail because sometimes the freight wagon that brings it is late, and sometimes it comes after the kids or get home from school, and the kids try to protest, like
I think
Mary
it was
and
Mary
Laura.
spoke right up. But Ma, we always get that on the way home. Nah,
I mean, the girls were wide-eyed. They were looking at her like, "What are you talking about?" Like, they were looking at her like this was a thing that probably never happened. And she said, "Well, if the girls miss it, then we have to wait until the next day."
And let's not forget, Pa standing there the whole time smirking.
With the smirk, we got the smirk again,
Yep.
and then of course, so here she is. Lying.
Lying.
She's lying because she's prying because she's
Prying.
trying to get him involved, and then she's trying to get all of this stuff going in and get these two people together, which really they were already starting to come together without all of her prying, but whatever. And then Mr. Edwards skips to school with the kids, which was really cute, and
Yeah.
I enjoyed watching
That's
it.
more than Pa ever did.
Yes. So Pa, while he's watching this friend of his skip up to school with the kids, is smiling and says, "Yeah, he had to go check for mail every day with all those letters we have pouring in, 1 or 2 a month."
Right. So then we get to Mr. Edwards in town, stops at the post office, introduces himself,
Startles her behind the
Yep.
desk.
and asks if there was any mail for the Ingalls, and she was really kind of like
She was
snooty, snobby.
Well, she was actually
Like
she was
that.
very cold, and I've been in towns like that where if they don't know you, you're treated like get out of here until I vetted you somehow or I know you're good.
Right.
So she doesn't know who he is from a hole in the wall. She's only ever seen him with a jug that looks like he's drinking some kind of spirits out of it.
Yep.
Across the way from where she's at. This is the first time she's ever talking to him. And she said that, are you a member of the family?
And oh no, ma'am, just a friend. So she tells him, well, they don't have any mail, but you're going to need a signature card signed by Mr. Ingalls.
And he said that, so Mr. Edwards says, well, Mrs. Ingalls was the one that said it was okay. And she says, nevertheless, it has to be Mr. Ingalls.
So he's very cordial, polite, thank you, and goes skipping back across the street. Right?
So now we have another instance of
Spying.
spying because she's over there supposed to be doing her work and she's peering out this window trying to duck and dodge into the shadows so he can't see her. Mr. Edwards can't see Grace, the widow Snyder, watching him.
Right.
And the other thing we realized is they hit another Dyin because she got to be a widow because her husband died.
Right.
So we had people dying 3 times this time.
Although that one they never talked about.
Well, that one they never talked about, but you become a widow because someone was dying.
Yeah.
They got it in there somehow.
So here comes her spying. Now she comes walking out of there across the street, goes over to the mill, grabs his jug, pops the cap off
this is
while
our
he's
spying,
inside the building.
which is kind of prying too.
Yeah. Pops the cap off and starts sniffing it. And now we're laughing because he comes out and he's standing right behind her staring.
Right, but by the time he's standing where he can see her, but she really can't
And
see
he
him.
just yells out to her and says, "You want a cup?"
No, but she stuck her finger into the hole. It's a small hole in the top. She stuck her finger into the hole and put it in her mouth to taste what it was.
Right.
And then then he's like, I don't get it.
Yeah, so all of a sudden, next thing you know, she's taking a swig out of the jug, and that's when Hanson
Now,
walks out and
this
sees
is a
that.
running thing they do through the entire episode, and it ramps itself up. So Mr. Hanson sees this upstanding woman who's standing with Mr. Edwards, who everybody in Sundry knows is a drinking man. He makes no bones about it, right? He tells everybody. Anybody who will listen, he'll tell them. So he sees her drinking and thinks, because everybody that sees that kind of jug thinks it's alcohol, thinks that the widow Snyder is drinking alcohol with Mr. Edwards. He doesn't have a problem with Mr. Edwards drinking it, but he certainly does have a problem with the widow Snyder drinking it. Then we pan to
church.
Charles, who is shirtless. That's what I have, shirtless. Where'd you get church?
Oh, that's right. That's after this. When
Because
Chaz is
really-
shirtless because he comes skipping home. And he says, "Yep, there's no mail."
Yes, there's no mail, and then oh no, and you know what? Mr. Edwards did not defend her. He said because Hanson said I didn't know she was a drinking woman. And that's when Edwards says, well, it's always the quiet ones. He didn't even defend her.
So that was
Lyin. So then we go, to Charles, who's shirtless again for no reason with his suspender straps up, and he keeps turning his shoulders toward, so his chest is towards the camera needlessly because really we have other things to do. And then he's over there smug because the both of them are smug that their plan worked because Mr. Edwards comes down skipping and singing, and he's all ready and rolling to go.
Yep. So now, next thing we know, we're in church and we're getting another fire and brimstone
Oh my gosh, she's
sermon
banging
about
on
the
the
evils
pulpit.
of drink.
Which was requested by Mr. Hanson for the benefit of the widow Snyder, who is clueless because she was drinking water out of a jug that looked like it had alcohol in it. So she has no idea. It goes
that's
right
the
over
running
her
joke.
head.
That's the running joke.
Yes.
So if we get forward out of there, now they're out of church, and after, Mr. Hanson talking about, what'd you think of that sermon? And she's like, I thought it went on a little long.
A little
myself."
long. She really,
Well,
it
we're
went
laughing,
over
but,
her head.
there's the joke.
Yes. So now we have a Pryin because now here we go again. We have Ma over there. Come over for supper.
Yep. And she said, nope, she
No,
wasn't able to do it.
sorry.
Oh, but Mr. Edwards was looking forward to seeing you.
Which is lying
He
because
didn't know anything about
he
it.
had no idea what was going on. He didn't know this was happening. Like, how do you know what he's thinking over there?
So then we get to the dinner, and they're talking about what happened in Sunday school, and it went on about, shenanigans.
Now, this is kind of important, though, because a letter was passed by the children in the class, and that letter passing led to one little girl being jealous of, about another little girl sending the letter, and the letter got intercepted, and it gives Mr. Edwards an idea. So this is an episode of Lyin because Mr. Edward conspires to get Laura, who now knows how to print her letters very well, actually. I was impressed with her penmanship.
Gets her to make up a fake letter that he squirts with lemon verbena to mail to himself so it comes through the Walnut post office.
Now, Walnut Grove post office. And we don't know, I don't think it was at this
Walnut
point,
Grove.
whether or not he can read, but we do find out later he can't read. And if you didn't want spoilers, you wouldn't be listening to this. So, I mean, this is...
So he mails a letter with the people in the wagon,
yes,
and
blank paper.
They kind of argue with him. You're standing in Walnut Grove, and they say, "This is my business. You just do your job and mail the letter." Cool. So now we show him at the mill. He gets paid, right?
Yes.
He finally gets his pay, and then when they show the mail coming through, Grace is flipping through and sees the letter to Mr. Edwards, and it was in care of the Ingalls.
But
Now she smells
sniffs it. And I still think that's Pryin, because what are you sniffing his mail
it's
for?
Pryin, but
We're
anyway,
sniffing his mail.
He shows up and says, any mail? Well, there's none for the Ingalls, but there is one for you.
No, she says,
I
think there's one for you,
there's one
which
for
is
you.
Lying,
You
because
knew
you
damn
knew it.
well
You had
there
it
was
under
one.
your nose.
So
you
he's
were
standing
sniffing
out,
it.
He's standing out there, and he's looking at a blank piece of paper and chuckling to himself, and he and ho and sticks it back, and the whole time she's gawking at him from behind
And that
the
one
desk.
is Pryin,
Pryin.
because here he is. He's over there doing this whole little show, pretending to read this thing and sniff it. He sent it to himself. He knows exactly what's in it, and she's watching him the whole time.
So now she goes across the street and meets him at the mill, where, again, she's drinking from that jug.
He offered it, and she said, sure. And here's Hanson with his eyes wide, and then he invites her to dinner.
He invites her to dinner.
And this is another Lyin, because he says, oh my gosh, you're going to get me in trouble if I find out that you like pike and they caught all this pike and I didn't invite you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, now I call that peer pressure too. Ma'll be upset because, because I didn't bring you down when I knew that you liked the meal that they were having.
So he gets her to come to dinner. Then right away they pan over to Ma, who's bitching about Grace being alone and being a widow. What business is it of yours, whether she's a widow or not?
Yeah, why?
The next thing you know, there's Chaz over there. Well,
Oh
I
my
guess
gosh.
they're playing backfire, but next thing you know, here they come in the horse-drawn wagon. I guess we got people for dinner, and then the smirk.
The smirk is back. Then they light up the entire front of the house with a fire while the adults are dancing, and they put the kids to sleep.
Right.
And we watch Laura and Mary, because what else is you going to do? They have one window in the room, and it's bathed in firelight all night while they're dancing around this fire, and it looks like they're really getting along. And Oh, and then he says to Grace, after he drops her home after that, he's got to walk back in the dark because he drove her in her own cart with her horse.
Yep.
And
Yep.
here's a lion
Lion.
because he said, I wouldn't lie to you. I only lie. Now, that's another
Yeah.
lion. He tells you what he does lie about.
He
I
lies
only lie about
poker
poker hands
and
the size
of
of
fish.
fish. So we know he lies like a rug on the floor. I have that. I mean, I wrote that there. Grad persuaded me to take you home and all this other stuff.
So,
So I
cool.
mean,
So next thing you know, he takes her fishing. Right now, he's fishing with her and fishing with milk measurement.
yes, who
And
throws him under the bus, the
bus.
thunk, talking about the lemon verbena. And isn't that how few drops it'll last all day long. And remember when you put it all over that letter? I never did understand why you sent that letter yourself. Now he's sitting there sweating because he had been lying because he said, I only lie about how big my fish are in poker hands. And obviously that
But
was not true.
it turns out she was kind of smitten over it, right?
Yeah, she
Okay,
was
so-
definitely into him.
So then they show, next day he's back. She's back over there at the mill. He asks her about fishing again. She's drinking from the jug, and Hanson's just having a holy fit.
Yes, I mean,
And then
he can't get away from
Right,
this now.
and then they cut over. Now, I guess he's been seeing her for what, a couple of weeks.
He said 2
He's
weeks.
eating at her place.
Yes, they are not
Ask
only
her to
that
go
she's
fishing.
well, widows could be unsupervised.
Right.
Back then, women could, under a certain age, if you were unmarried, could not be supervised.
Asked her to go fishing
Unsupervised.
again. It turns out it was a Sunday, and she's like, "Oh, after church? Oh no, before." It's like, "Well, what about church?" She's like, "I don't go to church." Well, this derails everything.
Right, because she could go fishing when she thought he was a
Right. So she
God-fearing
finds
man.
out he's not a God-fearing man.
And she
Next
says,
thing
"I
you know,
can't now."
I can't. I'm busy.
Well, I still call that lying.
That's
'Cause,
lying.
Lying
Yep.
because you could do it 2 seconds ago. So he says, lying, the fish ain't biting so good. Ma's prying because she brought the eggs for nothing. She meets up with Grace coming out of the mercantile, tries to do some prying, getting her in there. And then she says, well, I only came really to check on you. It's like, you got a thing of eggs. You're selling them.
Yeah.
You were trying to run into her. We know what
That's
you're up
bogus.
to.
That's bogus. So anyway, so they go back and
She's
she's
upset.
complaining about Mr. Edwards didn't say a word all through dinner, and she's looking. You can see out the window. He's up in the hayloft. He's got a lantern hanging over his head. And what she want to do? Go out there
Prying because she's like, oh, I'm going to talk to him. I feel responsible because she feels responsible for all her prying, getting them together when we know, because we know all the stuff that happened, that they actually would have probably gotten together without her even being on the show.
So she just goes out there, walks up the ladder, it gets up and sees him before she says, can I come up? You're already up.
Right. Can I come
what
up?
If he was
I'm not
indecent?
bothering you, not disturbing you, right? And he says, oh, not at all. I mean, really? So
he tells her that he's packing to leave. He's going to leave the next morning, and right away, I talked to Grace.
yes, but we also noticed that he was packing a much larger satchel
Much
than
larger.
the 100-mile walk one that Charles took. And I just thought that was a funny aside. And he said he's been happy,
And he
which
says,
I say is lying.
That's lying. But that's when he tells her. It's not that he doesn't believe in God. It's just God
but
doesn't
you're
have
missing-
time for him. He doesn't have time for God. Because you explained to me, how could God let my family die like that?
Okay, but then he
Which-
does do a lion
Oh,
because he says, I've
absolutely
been
lying.
happy, but there's no saloons here and he needs to move. Like, people like me need to be on the move. That's not the reason. The reason he's leaving is because Grace
Right.
said
She
that he
said,
wasn't going to do it.
No, so
That, this wasn't working between the two
after
of them.
Ma and her highfalutin self over there lays on the guilt trip and then walks out, leaves him, and he's just kind of sitting there muttering himself. So then they cut the next day to church.
Yeah.
And they're sitting in right away. They're bringing in the sheaves.
Yes, they like this
They
song.
love that song.
They really do.
And that's the whole thing they show while they're in church. But you do see who shows up, Mr. Edwards.
Mr. Edwards shows up and he sits down next to Grace, and the music
smiles
swells
and
and everybody's
all's great.
smiling and everything's great, and he's tugging at his suit because he's wearing different clothes that must be uncomfortable, and he made it to church and all is well in the world.
And that wraps up that episode for The homecoming of Mr. Edwards.
Mr. Edwards.
And that concludes this episode of Two Luckies.
Two Luckies, the podcast.
And our series, Dyin,
Cryin
and
Lyin.
Lyin.
We release these in threes, so if you enjoyed it, there's more. Go check it out.
Go check them out. We'll see you next time.
We're out.
See ya.
Two Luckies, the podcast.
Two Luckies podcast.
Two Luckies, the podcast.